In 1939, the Again Set Penguin books published 6 guides to different British counties, full in tourism maps, designed at the medium-class car owner. Emma Jane Kirby has been drive about the UK in such at first edition guides in her brush to see how Britain has modified with the begin of Planet War couple. Following halt, Derby. Same Peaklander, warns F.C. Lamb, the writer of my 1939 Penguinshire Manual, is partly silent. Take a prompter part way up the cliff, climb up to the heights of Abraham, curse the reality how the cord car is closed for the winter months, I look the low sun iskra and shine off the rooftop beautiful of Matlock bathtub under and know once why the lyricist Byron was so charmed in the scenery's uneven, severe beautiful. And not just Byron, my manual, Lamb, suggests how Top Tor might so be the loveliest rock in the entire of England. The 1939 Penguinshire guides appealed to holidaymakers who were acute to checkmark off as lot must-sees as they could time scaling via the Shire in their cars. But the step of the Derby manual is quite slower rather than several of the other, as James Mackay of the Penguin Collectors Community notes. Same Derby amount is various since it was spelled by a regional person, he explains. Or he was a vagrant who treated for the railway, and the expressiveness is on how 1930s civilization of departure out in the rural area in a backpack on yours behind, walk among rail stations and take the boat train household once again. He's at Matlock bathtub how I encounter architecture historiographer Claire Hartwell, who has fair completed revising the 1951 Pevsner Manual to Derby. I sense a slight unreliable to Lamb as we talk along. Though the Penguinshire guides were reissued in 1947, it was the publishing of more than inclusive, intelligent guides love Pevsner how eventually led to the die of the Penguin Manual. I'm not certainly, says Hartwell, as we walk up the major way, which Mr. Lamb would include done of all these minnow and microchip shops, but at Low the colors are quite muted. He would include Found the Fair fully repellent, but once again, he's substantially lie by Wood Lid, House's thing on contemporary preservation politics. In 1939, Lamb was hoping how up length, several restrictions will be located on the multiple advertisement signs how mess up the area, weeping, though down there is yet lot beautiful leftward, in Matlock, down there is lot to jar the aesthetic flavor, and down there is no urge for the machine car and emotional slight monkeys fixed up in cages. Fortunately, down there's no mark of the monkeys any more than, but on the common cold winter date the spline and vegetables machines are engaging lot of customers. I try to discover the hot bathing baths how the manual promises me. Matlock was named as the household of hydrotherapy, but Hartwell explains how present they've been converted in an fish tank. In 1939, Derby was famous for its inorganic and heat baths, and while I ask Hartwell if the medicinal spa city has seen its date, she suggests we driving to Buxton, one of the highest towns in England, wherever Lamb promises water supply house wealthy in radiation and a ferruginous springtime that is of large importance as a restorative, and as well, of special concern to me in close-sighted medium age, to such in eye anxiety. I blink at the mark jammed onto the scaffold and hoardings how conceal a nice 1780s crescent moon, and find out how following year of non-use, the Buxton Baths will resume in 2019, as a spa-in facility. Hartwell looks at me solemnly. It all depends on which you indicate by spa, she says. Human beings may not go for swimming and take the water supply in the way they did, but human beings yet get the Buxton water supply. They sip Buxton's bottled water supply. And though in 1939, human beings didn't go to Buxton Baths since they were ill, they came for the public lifetime, and while the spa-in facility opening there in a pair of year, human beings will go to get a breakdown, but as well to include entertainment. Yet set on a massage therapy, yet, I chief to the neighboring Devonshire King Clinic, that is attended, onto Lamb, by rheumatoid patients of slim tool of all above the realm. I shove outdoor the spinning doorway surely, just to discover myself in a cafe in throngs of youthful human beings compressing archive and folders. The clinic is now portion of the college campus of Derbyshire College. If students include replaced the rheumatoid patients, later tourists, thirsty for a dosage of industry legacy, include replaced the clap and weaving plant workers. In 1939, human beings were hard to flee the factories in the rural area or to see at castles, historiographer Adrian Farm explains as we go to Strutt's polar plant in Belper. Yet present the plant is as various and foreigner to human beings as the loch one day was, so now we are on the legacy and visitor path. Farm shows me about the magnificent museum how the plant now houses. UNESCO recognized Belper as the homeland of the plant and massive manufacture, he says. So our popularity has distribution world and we, though get human beings of China and Japan there, needing to include their picture undertaken in front line of the at first plant, in 1939, human beings would include mind you must be insane to do how. I miracle if the human beings of 1939 would include mind how we were insane if we could include said them how in 2017, no clap would be twisted in Britain any more than, besides maybe in legacy museums. They wouldn't include believed thou, smiles Farm. Before 1912, we were the planet lead in clap and in 1939 down there was yet a enormous sum of clap creature twisted there in the Derwent Vale. They would include anticipated how to go on ever. Our Penguin Manual was published in March 1939. 6 months after, Britain was at war and the unaware Belper plant workers would suddenly halt manufacturing knitted and would instead of begin manufacturing camo grid for troop storage tank. I'm header now in the unspoilt, ministerial landscape of Centre Derby wherever Lamb tells me I'll discover wide milk agriculture and can look the enormous churns of breast milk creature shipped by railing to London. 10 miles western, Andrew Mycock, whose household has bred there at Flag for generations, laughs as he tips a considerable bag of nourish in front line of his cab's feed fencing. Great bulk truck tractor tankers get all off the farmer, he says. Or you wint he discover lot love me these days, the numbers of milk farmers include halfway there though in the recent 10 year, he's a stimulating production. Mycock has been up with 5 o'clock, setting 350 herd viaduct the milking parlor, feed them and care to his youthful stockpile. Same'll eventually urge it overnight about 22 o'clock. He's a youthful person's play very, milk agriculture, he explains. Or in 1939 it was very difficult job. We include 5 times as lot herd as my large grandpa did but they had no mechanization, they had to spade the manure later distribution it on the fields time I sit in my hot truck. He's hot in the rural house meeting chamber wherever a grandpa watch ticks reassuringly as we say. Mycock blames the flying breast milk prices for so lot farmers throw in the cloth. He nods to the grandpa watch. He's sad to see the herd go in lot ways, he says, yet you can't ask period to stay yet, can thou? In the slight countryside of large Hucklow yet, I include the sense how period has made fair how. Our 1939 manual, F.C. Lamb implores his readers to go there to capture one of the eminent amateur performance of L. Dugard Apricot's countryside players, executed normally while the Luna is complete. An unhappy absence of complete moon this evening sees me ruinous few protocol fighting to get in the incorrect oratory for rehearsals, the countryside yet has no road lights. While I eventually discover the Law Chapel room, I'm welcomed by Peter Miles, Zach, John and Becky, who are possessing a energetic recite via of one of Dugard Apricot's unique sitcom scripts, Summit related, set in a countryside pristine by advance for 100 year. I'm so undertaken in their great operating how he's a complete min up I understand I'm insight just on one speech in 4 persons. The act is spelled, and yet executed, in a wide Derby vernacular. Dugard Apricot initially wrote the acting just for the farmers and regional human beings he knew and in the scenario spelled in the folk, they didn't include 2 instrument. The unique countryside players business stacked in 1972, a pair of year up Dugard Apricot's die. But Peter Miles, who play in How Definitive Shaw, requested to restore amateurish hysterics in the region and the large Hucklow players now execute in the assist of neighboring villages. The drama ghost has been gone downward the gene link, the parent of all the actors were as well countryside players. As far as I aware, grins Miles, show me several photos of the at first shows. Apricot never pay behind the lending he took to buy the theatre house, but it was a lending so consumable, it ran among 1938 and 1971. The house is yet down there, but sorrowfully he's no much longer a theatre. He's now utilized as an outside chase center. But we hold the ghost of the theatre live by yet setting on acting there in the countryside, especially the Derby comedies that were really famous in such days. As I keep the oratory, Miles hands me a enormous piece of lemon juice sprinkle pie, done by his woman as a sign of greet. Drive behind to my inn in the vehicle. I remember Lamb's precautionary in the Penguin manual how the Peaklander can be partly silent, and I drag in a put-by to research the link more than close. It doesn't appear rather once, how the man who obviously favored each dimension of his shire could include such a booking on his own human beings. In the assist of a flare, I choose out his complete sentence, same Peaklander is partly silent, but never fails to answer to a amiable attitude.